Governor Sarah Palin. Governor, good morning to you. Thank you for joining me on the show.
I am so honored. Thank you so much, Alex.
You were one of my first picks when I wanted to recap the first 100 days of the Trump administration. I'm still incredibly disappointed you're not in the Trump administration at this time, but I think things are going pretty well, and we've got a long time to get you in there. So I'm working behind the scenes, Governor.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your reflections, just overall, big picture. What do you think?
I'm extremely pleased, of course, that our new president is in there building the team that he believes that he needs in order to fulfill promises to the American electorate to make America great again. I'm very, very happy that he's there, of course. And people who so often are asking others and asking me to grade President Trump, give me a grade, A through F, how's he doing? I say, one, I get annoyed with that question. I don't want to give a grade. He is doing, to me, very well. But I remind people, just keep doing your ABCs. Remember, those of you who maybe still aren't aboard the Trump train, but know that the Trump movement had to be ushered in order to get rid of the status quo that was harming America. Keep doing your ABCs and remember what that was. It was anybody but Clinton. So stick with your little alphabet analogy there. Those who are asking for a grade of this administration, and just keep remembering it could have been Clinton.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's why I've been quite critical of the president throughout the first 100 days when I think he's deserved it. I don't think I've missed a chance to criticize him when he has deserved it. But I always do it with a smile on my face because he's not Hillary Clinton, Governor. And it's so wonderful that we get to debate some of these things, whether or not it's a wall or it's some sort of other type of barrier, for example. I mean, we would be debating whether or not we'd be fighting for our lives as a medium at Breitbart if Hillary Clinton was president, because Hillary Clinton campaigned on suggesting we might not have a right to exist, and now we're talking about what nuances of policy that we like is going to get implemented in the White House. We should stop and smell the roses on that stuff.
Well, see, your perspective on all this is very valuable. You're one to never just drink the Kool-Aid and not wanting to be just a yes man in order to be really productive and a true contributor to the public discourse and allowing the healthy debate that will make us all better. And you're right. We would all, in our own venues that we are in, we'd all be fighting for our lives. You there with freedom of speech and with internet security and freedom and all that. That's something that you're expert at. The rest of us, too, in our areas of interest, we'd be fighting for our lives if it were more of the same, that status quo under Hillary Clinton of stifling our freedoms with an agenda that she would have ushered in. So, yeah, and I think collectively, we'd all be fighting for our lives today had Hillary won and a Supreme Court justice been chosen that was not of the ilk that this new Supreme Court justice is, thankfully, under Trump.
Yeah, and I don't literally mean fighting for my life, by the way. So you see, we have enough trolls in Media Matters, Governor Palin, that they will bust my chops for that if I'm not careful. So I indulge them. Okay, so let's talk about, before we get back to the first 100 days, you've been quite critical in recent days about Betsy DeVos, the education secretary. At Breitbart, you know that not one of our favorite picks of Trump's cabinet because of her past support of Common Core. She said Common Core now doesn't exist or something, and you went buck wild on her.
I sure did. She says that, in fact, Common Core hasn't really existed for the past couple of years. And I would ask, do these politicians, do these kind of elitist bureaucrats, do they even send their children or grandchildren? Are they in public schools? When our kids and our grandkids come home and we sit down with them each night, still to this day, and we work with them on their homework, the Common Core curriculum is alive and not well in the classrooms. And if our, the leader now of the education sector of our country would deny that Common Core is in existence, well, she needs to try to tell that to our really, really great public school teachers who still have to explain and kind of apologize to the public school parents, I'm one of them, as to why the curriculum is as confusing and burdensome and less freeing for our teachers who know what our students need best, as do the parents. These good good school teachers still have to explain to us that under Common Core, these requirements are quite burdensome and nonsensical, certainly are in place. So when our leader of the education sector of this country denies that that's happening, I think she's really out of touch.
That's Governor Sarah Palin, former governor of Alaska, and so much more. One of the fan favorites of the show, one of the personal favorites of the host. You're listening to Alex Marlow on Breitbart News Daily. Now, Governor, let's get back to discussion of the first 100 days. Give me your top 2 or 3 highlights, in your opinion.
Well, certainly the Supreme Court chosen one. I'm extremely thankful. We all should be that he's in there now. And in a general sense, Trump's commitment to this bogus, we're going to lead from behind agenda that we suffered under Obama, which made the world a less safe to be. Trump, he quashed that. He said no more leading from behind. America is that beacon of hope. We are a country that has elements of just this perfect storm, if you will, with the natural resources to be developed and with the manpower and with the intellect and with the patriotism, the unity that a country needs in order to be so successful, to be great, and to be a leader that other countries would wish to emulate. America has all that, and we can put it into play for the greater good of the world by leading and not leading from behind, which is kind of Orwellian speak. So leading again on the global stage and the Supreme Court pick, those are 2 specifics. But Alex, well, we need to make sure to remind our friends, our supporters, people who are really tuned into what's going on today and get frustrated under any administration, but maybe they're frustrated personally with what Trump does, some of the wrinkles that are certainly a part of the agenda that we've kind of had to we witnessed. We can never put our faith and our hope in man, in any one man, certainly not a politician. Man is fallible. And we're going to be disappointed if we put all of our hope and faith in one man. A politician, a government, they cannot make us happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. And we need to look at the bigger picture here, as you suggested in your opening.
What else? What else do you love, Governor Palin, from this first 100 days?
Well, I'm going to love these, quote-unquote, massive tax cut proposals that will come from the White House. I'm extremely happy about that. That's another promise fulfilled. And we know that to allow us to be solvent and sovereign, we need to see jobs created. The way that jobs are going to be created and people will be productive again in this country is for tax cuts that will really benefit the middle class, especially the working class. More jobs will be created with tax cuts. So excited about that coming down the pike.
So one thing that we've heard from Mnuchin is that this is going to be the biggest tax cuts in history. It's going to cut the corporate tax, going to cut the middle class tax cuts. But this is the sort of thing where we're not going to be able to scale back government at the rate we would like in order to pay for said tax cuts. If you can pay for a cut, that's a semantic game. But the left has kind of controlled that one. So it's going to raise the debt, and this is something that has been a big debate on the right, because I don't think any of us like the idea of a massive debt, but they're willing to sacrifice that in order to cut taxes. What's your thoughts on this issue?
We have to cut taxes. We look at that corporate tax rate we have that is second highest in the developed world. I mean, our corporate tax rate certainly is one of the job creation prohibitors that we're suffering under. So that has to be done. And certainly people with our income taxes, we realize it's taxation without representation. The government is taking from us the fruits of our labor, and we're not receiving the services in return that are on par with the amount that they're taking from us. So it's a given. Taxes must be cut in this country, and I would think that everybody knows that. But as for it then contributing to an accumulation of debt, you're right. It's semantics, and it's bogus. It doesn't have to result in accumulation of debt. We can't just hand that over to those in government who hold the purse strings and keep spending more and more money that we do not have. We need to ratchet down the size of government. It's this government overreach in every area of our life that's getting more and more expensive, we can't just swallow that and say, well, that's just the way it is, and, well, we're going to have to take more money from the people in order to pay for growing government. It always killed me when I was a city council member, I was a mayor, I was a city manager, I was a governor, and I would watch every 12 months when the government's budget was due. I'd either help craft it or it would come across my desk, and I would always ask the bureaucrats and the politicians creating these budgets, what's going on here? Just because 365 days have passed, you just automatically, inherently believe that the budget amount has to increase? Why? Are people getting more for the money that you're taking from them? Has the population grown that much? In each level of government, it's just so inherent that, government grows. That's just the way it is. It doesn't have to.
A couple other topics, Governor Palin, that have come up during the first 100 days is one of them that there has been a war on freedom of speech in this country. Ironically, ground zero for it has been Berkeley, where I went for college, and also the home of the free speech movement some 50-odd years ago. And now we're seeing reports of rioting and that's planned for an Ann Coulter speech. You, I'm sure, saw what happened with the Milo speech a few months ago. And this is really what's happening throughout our college campuses, where conservative speech is not welcome. I read for our listeners earlier this week that a professor actually apologized for sponsoring a conservative student on campus. And this is, I'm sorry, a conservative speaker on campus. And you're someone who has been a free speech warrior simply by speaking your mind. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that, especially because it hasn't captivated Washington the way it has the pages of Breitbart.
Well, first, it blows me away that you're from Berkeley. I'm just like, what? We talk about not drinking the Kool-Aid. You must not have participated.
Oh, I went to spike the Kool-Aid, Governor Palin. That's why I went.
That is so admirable. That's awesome. These Berkeley students, bless their hearts, they're hypocrites on steroids. It is amazing to me and anybody else with just an ounce of common sense in their veins to ever be able to believe that those who preach tolerance and diversity, and we're going to embrace diversity, but heaven forbid you say something that may hurt our little snowflakey feelings. We'll melt there down in Berkeley if you say something that we can't agree with, because, in the end, they're the most intolerant people if they are going to protest someone who is a bastion of free speech. Ann Coulter is on their side when they are spewing the free speech rhetoric. She's saying, exactly, and here, let's exercise it. Let me prove to you. You guys prove with me that we're all for free speech. And yet they're so blinded by their hatred for anybody who does not agree just down the line with them on everything, that they will not tolerate Ann Coulter speaking her mind.
That's Governor Sarah Palin. Make sure to go to sarahpalin.com, and you can also check out her really important Facebook page, which has 4.8 million likes on it. That's incredible, by the way, Governor. So that's a testament to the hard work you're doing over there, keeping people informed and having a great time. Recapping the first 100 days here on Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlow. Governor, I wanted to ask you about, we covered free speech, which is very important, but there's one other thing that defines some of the first 100 days, which is infighting within the White House. And I had anticipated it would be establishment versus anti-establishment Republicans, because many of the establishment Republicans did see the tea leaves and got on the Trump train fairly early on before his election. And so I thought they would try to scrap back in there and try to claim some more territory. But it really ended up being globalist Democrats inside the White House that seemed to cause the most problems for the Trumpian agenda. Now, let me give you my opinion in case you aren't familiar with it, and I don't assume you are. But my thoughts are, I like a big tent party. I like that the Republican Party could have someone like you and John McCain on the same ticket. I like that type of party. And I think that even having Democrats advising the president in the White House is a position of strength. That said, when you're doing end runs around the base, that's not a good thing. When you're setting the policy that your own voters is not going to resonate, that's not a good thing. But the worst thing is if the president is being advised that if he merely moderates his position, that he will somehow be liked or even loved by the political and media establishment. And as someone who is perhaps the greatest victim of character assassination unjustifiably in the history of American politics, with perhaps the exception of President Trump, could you speak to this? Could you speak to the fact that you will never be loved and never be liked if you're a Republican in the eyes of the media and the establishment?
Oh, amen. Preach it, brother. President Trump needs to realize you can't win him over. You cannot. Many of us, I mean, he can learn from our mistakes, those of us who have been in that position on a much smaller scale, but we have tried to win them over, and it doesn't work. It bites you in the butt, and it harms those whom you have promised to serve. Hey, right on to and talking about the big tent. You know, most of us, we come from big tent families.
Yes,
our
absolutely.
social circles, even in our communities, they're big tents, and really we're better off for it. Talk about diversity and learning from other people's perspectives that are shared and all that. That's all great. That's all great. But no, when you are leading an agenda that people have put, blood, sweat, and tears forth to make sure that agenda finally is given an opportunity to be manifest so that our lives can be made better. You have to surround yourself with people who are going to obviously help the cause and not hurt the cause. You cannot surround yourself, one, with a bunch of yes men. That certainly harms the cause. You will never grow as a leader, and you have to be growing as a leader as your constituents will be growing along with you. So you can't have a bunch of yes men, and those of us who've been in business and been in politics certainly recognize that. But also, you have to have those who at least that they will share your vision, maybe some of the idiosyncrasies, maybe some of the details and how you're going to get there. You can, argue some of the ways to do that, but the vision has got to be the same. Now, do globalists, do big government professional politicians who are in it for a season, not a reason, they're in politics for a job, for a career, for the money, for the power. Do they share the vision of average, hardworking, patriotic Americans who want government out of our lives so that we can be trusted as individuals to run our businesses the way that we know best and to raise our families the way that is best for our families? Government faces bureaucrats. They don't know how to do that. They keep screwing it up. Well, globalists and big government people, some in office today under Trump, they believe in that garbage of big government knowing best. That is the antithesis of the vision that those on the Trump train have. And that Trump train roared through this country so powerfully, so loudly and adamantly that there was no stopping it. That's why I wasn't surprised when Trump won. Those who have their thumb on the pulse of this country knew that, of course, it was a Trump movement that was going to be ushered in. So those who don't share that vision, who are there, quote unquote, serving our president and the vision, the mission that he is on, that is shared by the majority of the voters, it's frustrating to us because we do want to sound that warning bell that you can't win them over. They're certainly stuck in their ways. And if they give you lip service that they're there with you, I could give a lot of examples, but they're with you, sir. Those are the yes men that we don't need around our president.
That's Governor Sarah Palin. She's joining me today to recap the first 100 days of the Trump administration. Governor, thank you so much for joining me on Sirius XM 125, the Patriot Channel. Anything to plug, anything to share with our audience before we say goodbye for now?
I wish you would take the opportunity to get down to Berkeley and speak with your, as alumni. Go down there and talk to the folks down there about what tolerance really is and how healthy, diverse opinions really can be. talk about the Second Amendment. You would be one, Alex, that, well, they'd probably get really wee-weed up about it, but you'd be a great spokesperson for the cause.
Thanks, Governor. Very high praise.
Thank
Wow,
you.
I'm touched. Thank you. Well, thanks as always for making the time for us at Breitbart News. Very excited to always share your voice with our vast audience, and one of the pioneers of this populist nationalist movement in the United States right now. Thank you, Governor Sarah Palin.